Listen, Saturday evenings in the emergency department are consistently chaotic. But this specific Saturday at Northwood Regional, it was developing into an absolute catastrophe. Dr. Marcus Thorne positioned himself in the centre of the trauma area, appearing like someone who just witnessed his residents incinerate. And truthfully, that's essentially how he experienced it. His finest surgeon, Dr. Albright, the individual whose hands were actually insured for $2 million, was home suffering from the stomach virus. Meanwhile, the emergency room display resembled a holiday tree from the underworld, all crimson warnings and flashing indicators. So, Thorne needed to contact a temporary agency. He despised contacting temporary agencies. It seemed like acknowledging failure. When Dr. Ana Sharma entered through those mechanical entrance doors, Thorne's spirits dropped even lower. She appeared youthful, like younger than several of his interns. Her scrubs were this washed-out sea-green shade with no impressive hospital emblem, just scrubs. She transported a canvas knapsack instead of a quality leather briefcase. No costly timepiece, just some inexpensive digital device. She didn't march in with assurance. She just kind of remained there, absorbing everything around her. Thorne approached, already dismissing her in his thoughts. "Dr. Sharma," he stated, not attempting to conceal his frustration. "Dr. Thorne, appreciate the 11th hour contact." Her tone was so gentle he needed to lean forward to catch it, which just irritated him further. He offered her a brief acknowledgement. "Just attempt to maintain pace. We adhere to Northwood procedures here. They're not suggestions, they're doctrine. No theatrics, no creativity. You'll be in operating room 3. It's more compact, but it's what we possess. Manage the excess." He didn't pause for a response, just rotated away to address the next emergency. Across the space, Brenda, the veteran scrub nurse who'd witnessed everything in her 3 decades, nudged Dr. Chen, one of the driven interns. "The temporary worker," she whispered, "appears like a powerful gust could topple her over." Chen just made a sound, already concentrated on the next emergency vehicle arriving. The assessment was universal and unspoken. Dr. Sharma was insignificant, just a functioning person in medical attire. 10 moments later, complete chaos erupted. "Multi-vehicle collision on the highway." The speaker system crackled. A man arrived screaming in, his midsection filling with plasma. The imaging scan revealed a grade 4 splenic tear. Severe, but manageable if you acted quickly, Thorne was already prepared for another procedure, so he gestured at Sharma. "He's under your care. Splenectomy. It's uncomplicated. Don't consume all evening." He hesitated. "And for heaven's sake, contact me if you encounter difficulty." The implication was obvious. He anticipated her to collapse. Inside operating room 3, you could slice the doubt with a blade. Brenda and Chen manoeuvred around competently, but they kept observing Sharma, anticipating her to stumble. Then she donned her gloves. Snap, and everything transformed. She adjusted her posture. Her entire bearing shifted. The hesitant woman from 5 moments ago vanished. In her position stood someone who appeared like she'd performed this 1,000 occasions. Scalpel. Her tone wasn't gentle anymore. It was keen, exact. She created the initial cut, a flawless, bloodless path down the centre. Suction lap sponges, prepared. Her hands operated like electricity. No wavering, no surplus movement. Brenda, who took pride in predicting surgeons' requirements, found herself struggling to maintain rhythm, Chen observed, his brain attempting to comprehend what he was witnessing. He'd memorized every manual procedure, but this was distinct. Sharma separated the splenic vessel, a challenging artery buried deeply, secured it, and had the destroyed organ removed before Chen even fully grasped what was occurring. When she positioned the concluding stitch, Brenda glanced at the timepiece. 22 moments. A splenectomy typically required an hour. At least Brenda's hand froze, suspended, scissors in grip. "Doctor, clip," Sharma stated plainly. Brenda clipped the thread, her mind spinning. Chen just stood there, jaw hanging open. Before anyone could utter a syllable, the ceiling speaker announced again. "Gunshot, wound to the thorax, estimated arrival 2 moments. The entrance barriers burst open. A young woman, barely respiring, a bloody covering taped to her chest. She was suffocating on solid ground. "No respiratory sounds on the right," a paramedic shouted. "Blood pressure's declining." Sharma met the stretcher, her hands already travelling over the woman's torso. She didn't wait for an imaging device. Her fingers discovered what they required to know. "Tension pneumothorax," she announced, slicing through the alarm. "She requires a thoracic tube immediately. Obtain me the thoracotomy equipment." Chen's brain was still processing through the differential assessment when Sharma was already resolving the issue. She created a rapid cut between the bones, inserted the drainage device, and there was this aggressive surge of oxygen and plasma. The patient's measurements started ascending, but Sharma wasn't finished. "There's excessive hemorrhaging," she stated, eyes locked on the drainage tube. "It's not merely the pulmonary organ. Obtain me a vascular fastener." Chen couldn't restrain himself. "We haven't even identified the origin." "Intercostal vessel," Sharma stated, not glancing up. "It's damaged. The trajectory of the injury, the velocity of hemorrhaging, it's the sole possibility it can be." She expanded the incision, plunged in with her implements, and discovered the hemorrhaging vessel just like that. Secured it. The surge of plasma ceased. The whole critical segment required less than 5 moments. Chen experienced dizziness. He'd invested years studying trauma procedures, the cautious, systematic approach. This was something alternative entirely. A race, rapid, harsh, and frighteningly productive. What form of preparation creates a surgeon like this? The third situation broke through everyone's occupational protection. A 10-year-old child fallen from a 3rd-level terrace. A fragment of metal bar driven straight through his small frame. The sight of him, so colourless, so motionless, sent a silence through the emergency department. Dr. Thorne, having completed his own procedure and catching the wild speculation about the temporary worker, made his way to the viewing area above operating room 3. He positioned there, limbs folded, anticipating to finally witness this woman encounter her challenge. This was where velocity became hazardous, where hastening led to errors. He anticipated her to collapse. He was so incorrect. Sharma's hands, which had operated with such forceful productivity before, now seemed to hover. The operating room fell silent, except for the consistent beep of the display. She navigated a terrain of destroyed organs, punctured intestine, damaged kidney, torn connective tissue, with a contact that was impossibly delicate. Her micro-stitches were so refined, so flawlessly positioned, they appeared machine-created. She wasn't just repairing the damage, she was rebuilding her existence, stitch by microscopic stitch, Thorne positioned, frozen, his superiority disintegrating. He was observing a master, someone beyond anything he'd ever witnessed. He processed through the premier surgical institutions in his head, Hopkins, Harvard, Stanford. None of them instructed this. This was something alternative, something created in a location far beyond the sterile environment of civilian medical centres. The murmurs started circulating through the surgical section. The temporary worker in operating room 3 wasn't just proficient. She was a marvel. "Marcus, who's the fresh attending in operating room 3? Another surgeon questioned him in the corridor. Brenda informed me she performed a splenectomy in 20 moments. That's not feasible. Thorne just moved his head. He had no response. The fourth situation was a construction labourer, his limb crushed beneath a fallen framework. The femoral vessel was completely separated. Without prompt restoration, he'd forfeit the limb. "I require a number 4 Fogarty fastener," Sharma requested. Brenda's expression dropped. "Doctor, it was transported down for emergency sanitisation. It won't return for at least 60 moments. 60 moments they didn't possess. The limb was already becoming grey. Chen started enumerating the phases for removal, his tone sombre. Sharma raised a hand, quieting him. Her eyes examined the implement tray. No alarm, just computation. "Acceptable," she stated composedly. "Obtain me 2 hemostats and a portion of saline drip tubing." Brenda stared at her. "Doctor?" "Immediately, please." Brenda, now confiding in her completely, rushed to acquire the materials. Sharma accepted them and constructed a provisional vascular connection. She sliced a portion of plastic tubing, inserted it into both extremities of the separated vessel, and used the hemostats to secure it in position. It was primitive, unattractive, brilliant. Circulation restored, the limb transformed from grey to rose. She'd just preserved a limb with plastic tubing and 2 standard fasteners. From the viewing area, Thorne's jaw hung open. Where the devil did she acquire that? That wasn't from any manual, that was combat medicine. But from what combat? Then arrived the summons that altered everything. Officer injured, multiple gunshot injuries, no cardiac rhythm, resuscitation in advancement. The trauma area entrance barriers flew open. A police officer, his uniform saturated black with plasma. Paramedics were ventilating him, another performing frantic thoracic compressions. Thorne rushed over, verified for a cardiac rhythm. Nothing. He listened for respiratory sounds, nothing but the mechanical hiss of the ventilator. He examined the catastrophic injuries. "He's deceased," Thorne stated, his tone heavy. "Excessive plasma loss. Cease compressions. Moment of expiration. 2:47 a.m. "Negative." The syllable sliced like a blade. It was Sharma, plasma splattered from her previous patient, eyes blazing. "He possesses the opportunity. Transfer him to me." "Dr. Sharma, be logical," Thorne began. "There's no cardiac movement. I stated transfer him to me." It wasn't a petition. It was a directive. Before Thorne could object, she seized a blade and sliced open the officer's thorax, right there in the centre of the emergency department. Everyone gasped. She separated the bones with a spreader, a disturbing crunch, reached in and accepted the motionless cardiac organ in her hand. She began to compress it. Directly, manually. "Cross-secure the descending aorta," she directed Chen. "Immediately!" Chen, shocked into movement, complied, Thorne observed, horrified and captivated. This was a resuscitative thoracotomy. A 1 in 1,000 desperate attempt. Under the compression of her hand, the cardiac organ offered a weak flutter. Then another. A faint signal appeared on the display. "He's returned," Sharma stated, dangerously composed. "To the operating room. Immediately." What occurred in operating room 3 over the next 50 moments wasn't procedure. It was conflict against expiration itself. Sharma was a blur of activity, directing absolutely. Her team complied without inquiry, their earlier doubt incinerated away. She sealed holes in the cardiac organ, restored a destroyed pulmonary vessel, packed the hemorrhaging organ. She operated with the concentration of a predator and the exactness of a timepiece maker. Against all probabilities, the hemorrhaging ceased, the compression stabilized, the consistent beep of the cardiac display filled the space. Triumph. 3 hours had elapsed since Dr. Ana Sharma first entered 5 critical patients. 5 existences that should have been forfeited, all stabilized in the intensive care section. Thorne discovered her in the surgeon's break room, positioned in a deteriorated chair, consuming watery coffee from a vending apparatus. She appeared small again, unassuming. The warrior was vanished, or just resting behind her exhausted eyes, Thorne positioned in the entrance, his crisp suit seeming ridiculous now. "I've constructed a career of assessing surgeons," he stated, his tone raspy. "Their hands, their preparation, their assurance. I've never been so incorrect." He stepped into the space. "That connection you constructed, the thoracotomy in the emergency department, that's not something you acquire in residency, not a civilian one." He finally posed the inquiry burning in his thoughts. "Who are you? Where did you prepare?" Anna glanced up. For the initial occasion, Thorne witnessed past the quiet exterior. He witnessed something in her eyes, a profound, ancient exhaustion. The haunted appearance of someone who'd witnessed things he couldn't conceive. "My residency was at Walter Reed," she stated gently, "but my authentic preparation, that was distinct." She encountered his stare, and the burden of her experience filled the space. "Major Ana Sharma. I was the directing officer of a forward surgical unit attached to the 75th Ranger Regiment. My operating space was a canvas structure in Kandahar province, Afghanistan." The syllables landed like stones. Thorne experienced the plasma drain from his expression. "A forward surgical unit, operating beneath gunfire, restricted supplies, existence or expiration in seconds. The golden hour we discuss here," she continued, her tone matter-of-fact. "For an injured soldier, it's often less than 10 moments. We operated while explosive rounds shook the terrain. We depleted plasma. We depleted sterile equipment. The illumination didn't consistently stay functioning." She accepted a final consumption of coffee and offered him a sorrowful smile. "Tonight was hectic, Doctor, but it was silent. Nobody was firing at us." She positioned up. "In Kandahar, 5 critical situations in 3 hours. We designated that a calm Tuesday." Thorne was speechless. The undervaluation, the patronization, the dismissiveness. It all descended crashing down on him like an avalanche. He hadn't been assessing a temporary worker. He'd been assessing a champion. "Dr. Sharma," he finally managed. "Anna, remain. We'll establish a position for you. Deputy Director, Director of Trauma, anything you desire. Your identity on the entrance. We require you here." She collected her canvas knapsack, her movements silent and unassuming again. She offered him a small, genuine smile, the initial he'd witnessed. Appreciate it, doctor, but I'm not seeking a permanent position. There are numerous hospitals with personnel deficiencies. I just travel where I'm required. And with that, she departed out of the break room, down the silent corridor, and through the mechanical entrance barriers, into the grey pre-sunrise illumination. She departed behind a forever altered hospital, a humbled director of surgery, and a personnel who would invest the rest of their careers relating the narrative of the silent temporary worker, who, for one aggressive, miraculous evening, demonstrated them the authentic significance of composure beneath gunfire. The mythology of the insignificant individual from operating room 3 had just commenced.